country that's basically all rock and water. A country combining steep cliffs and impressive waterfalls, glaciers and raging rivers. It is hard to not get lost in the impression you're in a giant movie set. But this landscape is real and overwhelming. And it is not easy to shoot this really overwhelming landscape in a way that does its breathtaking dimensions justice. Welcome to Norway. Hello and welcome from one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It might not look like it, but we're currently on our summer holiday and in Norway, probably the most beautiful place in the world. I mean, I cannot imagine ever growing tired of a view like this. I mean, right now you don't see much at all, because there is loads of fog rolling in and the weather forecast is quite miserable for today, but we still couldn't resist coming up here. I'll put the location down here, over there. I keep forgetting where I usually put this, but I'll put the location on screen somewhere down there. We've arrived in Bergen by ferry about 3 days ago, and the journey up here already is quite the experience. For the last few hours, leaving from Stavanger, the ferry takes you through these fjords, and that really is a spectacular view to have with breakfast. And it's nothing short of fantastic taking in all these mountains and fjords, and it is surreal, really. It constantly feels like you're driving through a movie poster. And this strong contrast between the tall mountains with the steep cliffs dropping right into the sea, it's really hard for the eye to comprehend. But even more so, it's incredibly difficult to capture this with a camera and shoot it in a way for the viewer to comprehend the sheer size of things in the image. But we'll be here for about 2 weeks, and I'll do my best to find a few good examples, because the key to achieving this is size comparison and giving the eye some sense of scale. But for now, I'll put the Osmo back in my jacket because it's pouring down on us quite heavily and the thing isn't weather sealed. I hope you don't mind too much, but I brought you into my office. You and those guys back there. When driving through a landscape like this here in Norway, you inevitably are struck with awe by all these steep cliffs. And it is all on a scale I simply don't know from back home and from anywhere in Germany, really. I mean, in the Alps probably, but anything north of those is rather flat. And this makes it incredibly difficult. I mean, the eyes aren't used to seeing things like this. I mean, in case I'm talking nonsense, there's a comment section for you, so feel free to correct me. But I do think part of the reason is that you're simply not used to looking at stuff like this. It just feels surreal. And even if you're climbing any of these mountains and are lucky enough to enjoy a clear view, it's breathtakingly beautiful, but it's just as difficult to portray the dimensions because the eyes have nothing for scale. And that's where it gets important to do exactly that. Find something you can use to give the eye a sense of scale.
Woran das Auge sich orientieren kann, wodurch das Auge irgendwie einen Größenvergleich kriegt oder sowas. Und da funktioniert es ganz hervorragend, zum Beispiel einen Menschen.
And what I like to do in a case like this is to place a human, usually Mila, in the foreground and then have this fantastic view in the background of my shot to give the eye some kind of orientation.
Damit das Auge was kriegt, woran es sich orientieren kann. Ich werde zusehen, dass ich euch dafür...
I'll keep looking for an example or two for this, but for today, I'll just chill and we'll have a nice evening.
Cheers.
Our journey takes us through the highlands of Vestland, across the Aurlandsfjellet, and the area makes us stop over and over again. 4 degrees Celsius in your summer vacation is something different, but the landscape is breathtakingly beautiful, barren and rough. And it offers huge photographic potential and everything you could ask for. Green meadows, grey rock, white snow, rivers and waterfalls. I knew when I packed my stuff I'd make use of my gloves eventually, in my summer vacation. And why wouldn't you?
Guten Morgen zusammen.
Good morning, everyone. It's about 4 a.m. and it's barely any brighter than it was at midnight or at 1 a.m.
Heller als es Mitternacht oder 1 Uhr morgens war. Ich habe 2 Stunden.
I think I had about 2 hours of sleep before my alarm went off, which I set in anticipation of the very first proper sunrise since we've arrived in Norway.
Seit wir in Norwegen sind. Jetzt gucke ich mir das da oben am Himmel an. Warte mal. Da.
So now I'm looking up there, and this is the sky I'm being greeted with. I just took a quick peek out of the car. I didn't even feel like getting up and wanted to lie in. But how on earth could I possibly stay in bed in conditions like this?
Wie soll ich bei sowas weiter schlafen? Ich werde jetzt schön ein kleines bisschen.
So now I'll do my best to capture some cotton candy clouds, and then maybe I'll go back to bed. But right now, sleep really isn't far up on my list. I initially intended to make this video about how to capture the sheer brutal size of these mountains here.
Brutale Größe von diesen Bergen hier im Foto tatsächlich einfangen kann.
This shot here really doesn't have anything to, well, not much to do with this. But I really can't not take this shot, and I figured I'll just take you along with me. So this right here is pretty much a scenery by the books of what I usually wish for when going out to shoot a sunrise. And it's getting better by the minute. I really love how this river is swaying left and right here, and in the distance you can see a little bit of morning fog forming. And all the way back there, if you take a really close look, I even have a waterfall. And so in this composition, I really have all I could ever dream of for a landscape. I've got flowing water, I have a likely negligibly small waterfall in the frame. I've got mountains, I've got cotton candy clouds, and what I barely dare dreaming of is that the mountains potentially could even catch some alpenglow when the sun pops over the horizon in a few minutes.
Wenn die Sonne dann tatsächlich über den Horizont kommt, das ist in ein paar Minuten soweit. Das wäre der absolute Kracher.
So in my composition here, that's pretty straightforward. I've got a rather wide field of view. I'm unsure about the bottom of the frame here. There's probably not enough going on. Well, it might be a bit too much of the river. But we'll see. Maybe this will work. Maybe I'll crop this into a panel. But maybe all of this works with the river full of glacial water, dragging you into the image. The cotton candy clouds in the back, and then up there the mountains, which hopefully catch some golden light. If that really happens, I'll lose my ride. Let's face it, all of this isn't new, and I bet there are countless videos about this topic out there already. And frankly speaking, I guess while filming this video I mainly discovered what doesn't work. Cause simply adding a human to the composition isn't enough. Does it have to be a wide-angle shot with a tiny human somewhere in the frame? That seems to work. Or a longer focal length that compresses the scene? Seems to work, but not as good, I guess. What doesn't work is having the human rather close to the camera. I made Mila disappear in one shot using the magic of Photoshop to be able to show you the shot without and with a human in there. In my opinion, it doesn't help much with making the size of the waterfall comprehensible. But hey, finding out what doesn't work does in a way help discovering what does. Do you fully understand this principle? If so, feel free to comment what works for you and what doesn't, and maybe we'll figure this out together. That's it from me for today. Let me know if you like this video and if there's any kind of takeaway for you. Leave a comment on your favorite shots I featured in this video. We'll try now and see how much closer we can get to this waterfall. And remember, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. Thanks for watching and until next time.